Celebrities who have aged terribly. Number 7 is unreal. When we think of Hollywood stars, we picture glamour, wealth, and eternal youth. But time catches up with everyone, especially those who've spent decades making enemies and burning bridges. Today we're diving into 15 celebrities whose looks have deteriorated almost as badly as their reputations. And trust me, number 7 will leave you absolutely stunned. It's the kind of transformation that makes you question everything you thought you knew about fame. You clicked on this video because, like me, you've probably wondered what happens when the spotlight fades. How did the mighty fall? And I promise you, what you're about to see goes beyond bad plastic surgery or natural aging. We're talking about complete physical and moral collapses that will shock even the most jaded Hollywood observers. Some of these celebrities were once considered the most beautiful people on the planet. Others were respected, even revered. All of them are now cautionary tales, and as we count down through this list, pay close attention to how their outer appearances began to reflect their true inner character. The further we go, the more disturbing the revelations become. I've spent months researching these falls from grace, digging up details that mainstream media glosses over. You'll see beloved actors who secretly terrorized film sets. You'll discover iconic beauties whose hateful views destroyed their legacy. And you'll witness the shocking decline of superstars who chose self-destruction over sustained success. Before we begin, I need to warn you, some of these transformations are genuinely disturbing. The contrast between who these celebrities were and who they became might change how you view Hollywood forever. Are you ready? Let's dive into the dark side of fame. 15. Chevy Chase. Chevy Chases. Chase's journey from comedy superstar to bitter outcast represents one of Hollywood's most dramatic falls from grace. In the 1970s and 80s, Chase was comedy royalty, a founding cast member of Saturday Night Live who parlayed his success into a blockbuster film career with hits like Caddyshack, Fletch, and the National Lampoon's Vacation series. With his tall, handsome looks and impeccable comic timing, Chase wasn't just funny, he was a genuine leading man, something rare in comedy. His physical comedy skills, deadpan delivery, and undeniable charm made him one of the highest-paid actors in Hollywood. At his peak, he was earning $7 million per film, an astronomical sum in the 1980s. His fall and recovery pratfalls became his signature, a metaphor that would take on significance as his career unraveled. But beneath the surface of his success, Chase was cultivating a reputation that would eventually destroy his career. His departure from SNL after just one season, the first cast member to leave the show, was just the beginning of a pattern of burning bridges. Former SNL colleague Bill Murray famously got into a physical altercation with Chase when he returned to host, reportedly telling him medium talent, an insult that would haunt Chase for decades. As the years progressed, stories of Chase's difficult behavior multiplied. He was known for making racist comments to co-star Donald Glover on the set of Community. Show creator Dan Harmon described him as saying racist, horrible things, as if testing what he could get away with. His treatment of women was equally problematic, with female writers describing humiliating encounters where he would make crude remarks about their appearance or dismiss their ideas. His physical transformation has been equally dramatic. The once handsome athletic comedian is now almost unrecognizable. At 81, Chase appears significantly older than his contemporaries, with a bloated face, hunched posture, and strained movement that bears little resemblance to the nimble physical comedian of his heyday. Recent public appearances show a man who seems uncomfortable in his own skin, with a puffy, irritated complexion and labored breathing that suggest years of hard living have taken their toll. What makes Chase's physical decline particularly striking is how it mirrors his professional and personal deterioration. The once charming smile now often appears as a grimace. The confident swagger has been replaced by a shuffling gait. Even his voice, once smooth and authoritative, now often sounds raspy and strained. Despite numerous opportunities for career rejuvenation, Chase has consistently sabotaged himself. His brief stint on Community in the 2000s and 2010s could have introduced him to a new generation of fans, but his behavior alienated cast and crew alike. In a 2018 interview with The Washington Post, Chase dismissed the show that had given him a late career platform as a big mistake, further burning what few bridges remained in his career. Perhaps most telling about Chase's terrible aging is his complete lack of self-awareness about how his behavior has contributed to his downfall. Unlike some on our list who have shown moments of reflection or growth, Chase remains defiantly unrepentant. In the same Washington Post interview, when confronted with his reputation for difficulty, he responded, "I am who I am, and I like who I am." The contrast between the Chevy Chase who once defined American comedy and today's bitter, isolated figure is stark and sad. Former colleagues describe a man who seems incapable of understanding why his phone stopped ringing or why former friends no longer return his calls. The physical aging we witness in Chase seems to perfectly reflect a lifetime of burning bridges and alienating allies, the external manifestation of internal bitterness that has consumed one of comedy's once brightest. 14 Madonna. The Queen of Pop's desperate battle against time has become increasingly painful to witness. Madonna built her empire on provocation and reinvention, but her latest transformation might be her most controversial yet. At 65, Madonna refuses to acknowledge that youth is behind her. Instead of aging gracefully like other icons of her era, she's chosen a path of extreme surgical intervention that has left her looking like a caricature of herself. Her once distinctive features have been smoothed and plumped to the point of being almost unrecognizable, with her face now appearing unnaturally tight and expressionless. But Madonna's terrible aging goes deeper than just questionable cosmetic procedures. Her behavior has become increasingly erratic and inappropriate. Her obsession with appearing decades younger than her actual age has led to uncomfortable performances where she desperately tries to keep up with dancers one-third her age. Meanwhile, her social media presence has devolved into bizarre, filtered videos and inappropriate content that leaves even her most devoted fans cringing. What's truly sad is that Madonna could have redefined what aging gracefully looks like for female performers. Instead, she's become a cautionary tale of what happens when a star can't accept the natural passage of time, both in appearance and attitude. Steven Seagal few. Hollywood falls have been as stark or as deserved as Steven Seagal's. Once an action movie staple in the late 80s and early 90s, Seagal was known for his martial arts prowess and stoic screen presence in hits like Under Siege and Hard to Kill. With his sleek ponytail, mysterious squint, and lightning-fast Aikido moves, he created a distinctive screen persona that made him one of the highest-paid action stars of his era. Fast forward to today, and he's virtually unrecognizable, both physically and in terms of his standing in the industry. The transformation is so extreme that recent photos of Seagal have repeatedly gone viral, with viewers expressing shock at how dramatically different he appears from his action hero days. Seagal's physical transformation has been particularly dramatic, given that his entire career was built on the image of physical fitness and martial prowess. His once lean athletic physique has ballooned dramatically, with recent estimates putting his weight gain at over 100 lb since his prime. More bizarre are his attempts to maintain his signature look, the all-black clothing and dyed black ponytail, which now seem like a sad costume rather than an authentic style choice. At 72, he appears significantly older than his contemporaries, with a puffy, bloated face and labored, strained movement that contradicts his continued claims of martial arts mastery. In recent years, videos have surfaced of Seagal performing martial arts demonstrations where he barely moves while his partners dramatically throw themselves to the ground, performances that have been ridiculed by legitimate martial artists as obvious fakery. Former co-stars have not been kind when discussing Seagal's offset behavior during his heyday. John Leguizamo famously recounted how Seagal slammed him against a wall during the filming of Executive Decision, while Under Siege actress Erika Eleniak described his behavior as difficult and intimidating. These stories have multiplied as Seagal's star has faded, with crew members feeling more comfortable sharing their negative experiences with the action star. But Seagal's appearance is just the beginning of his problems. His reputation has been destroyed by numerous allegations of sexual misconduct spanning decades. Multiple women, including actresses on his sets like Jenny McCarthy and Portia de Rossi have come forward with disturbing accounts of inappropriate behavior during auditions. In 2018, 2 additional women filed police reports alleging sexual assault, adding to a pattern of accusations that stretches back to the early 1990s. His career has devolved into direct-to-video releases with titles so generic they're almost self-parodies. Contract to Kill, End of a Gun, Against the Dark. These low-budget productions typically feature Seagal moving as little as possible, often sitting for most of his scenes and relying on obvious stunt doubles for any physical action, a far cry from the athletic performer who once did his own stunts. Perhaps most bizarre is Seagal's embrace of authoritarian regimes. His close relationship with Vladimir Putin led to him being granted Russian citizenship in 2016, and he has since become a vocal supporter of Putin's policies. He's made appearances on Russian state television defending the invasion of Ukraine and has been photographed at pro-government events in Moscow. In 2018, Russia even appointed him as a special envoy to improve relations with the United States, an ironic position given his increasingly negative reputation in his home country. The direct-to-video action star of today is a far cry from the Hollywood heavyweight he once was, living partly in Russia and appearing in propaganda while facing investigation in the US. Seagal hasn't just aged poorly. He's become a parody of himself, and his exterior decline seems to perfectly reflect the ugly truths about his character that have emerged over time. What makes his case particularly interesting for our list is how his current physical appearance seems to be the perfect manifestation of the inauthenticity that many industry insiders claim was always there. Rudy Giuliani, while not strictly a Hollywood figure, Rudy Giuliani's dramatic transformation from America's mayor to disheveled conspiracist deserves a spot on our list. Once respected for his leadership after 9/11, Giuliani's recent years have shown a man physically deteriorating alongside his reputation. Time hasn't been kind to Giuliani, but his own actions have accelerated his decline. The stress of legal troubles, failed election challenges, and public humiliations has seemingly aged him decades in just a few years. At 81, Giuliani looks far older than his contemporaries, with a gaunt, sallow appearance that's frequently commented upon in the media and has transformed him into a cautionary tale about how quickly respect can be squandered. 11. Mickey Rourke. Mickey is perhaps one of Hollywood's most tragic. In the 1980s, Rourke was the definition of a smoldering heartthrob, with his work in films like 912 Weeks. His intense good looks and undeniable talent made him one of the most promising actors of his generation. But Rourke's decision to abandon acting for a boxing career in the early 1990s changed everything. The physical toll of fighting was immense. He sustained multiple facial injuries requiring reconstructive surgery. When he returned to Hollywood, his face was dramatically altered. What followed was a series of botched plastic surgeries that left Rourke almost unrecognizable. The physical damage was already done. Today, at 72, Rourke continues to modify his appearance with procedures that only make him look more artificial. Recent public appearances show a man still fighting against the natural aging process, but losing that battle in spectacular fashion. Courtney Love, the wild child of 90s grunge, has paid a heavy price for her decades of hard living. As the frontwoman of Hole and Widow of Kurt Cobain, Courtney Love was once the epitome of raw, unfiltered rockstar energy, beautiful in her chaotic, rebellious way. But years of documented substance abuse and erratic behavior have taken their toll. Love's once striking features have been hardened by the ravages of addiction and the passage of time. At 60, she appears significantly older, her face showing the classic signs of both natural aging, accelerated by hard living, and the telltale markers of cosmetic procedures attempting to reverse that damage. Love's reputation has suffered a similar decline. Her public feuds, social media meltdowns, and estrangement from her daughter Frances Bean Cobain have painted the picture of a woman struggling to maintain control. While she's had periods of sobriety and career comebacks, the overall trajectory has been downward. What makes Love's aging so stark is the contrast with the vibrant, fierce young woman who once commanded the stage. Today, she often appears as a cautionary tale of rock and roll excess, someone who survived the dangerous lifestyle, but carries the visible scars of that journey on her face and in her fractured relationships. Axl Rose, the once magnetic frontman of Guns N' Roses, has undergone one of rock's most dramatic physical transformations. In the late 1980s, Axl Rose was the definitive rock god, lean, athletic, and capable of electrifying performances that showcased both his incredible vocal range and dynamic stage presence. With his snake-like dance moves, trademark bandanas, and that piercing wail that could shatter glass, Rose wasn't just a singer. He was a force of nature who embodied the dangerous, rebellious spirit of rock and roll. His signature flowing red hair has thinned, and his face has taken on a puffy quality that aged him well beyond his years. The deterioration of Rose's voice is particularly tragic for rock fans. That instrument, capable of everything from a guttural growl to a banshee wail reaching 5 octaves, now shows concert footage where he struggles through performances, often relying on backing vocalists to hit the high notes in signature songs like Welcome to the Jungle and Sweet Child of Mine. His reputation for extreme difficulty and perfectionism turned to paranoia. Former bandmates have described his behavior in the 1990s as increasingly erratic and controlling. The man who once kept thousands waiting hours for concerts to begin, if they weren't cancelled altogether, became known more for his unreliability than his talent. What makes Rose's case particularly fascinating is that, unlike some on our list, he has occasionally shown flashes of self-awareness about his decline. After one particularly disastrous performance where he was visibly struggling, Rose tweeted that he knew he wasn't the singer he was, showing a vulnerability rarely seen from the once arrogant frontman. When you compare footage of Rose in his prime, a whirlwind of energy commanding stadiums with almost supernatural charisma, with recent performances where he moves cautiously across the stage, the contrast is heartbreaking. His voice, once one of rock's most powerful instruments, has deteriorated significantly, leaving fans to reconcile their memories of the vital young frontman with the aging, struggling performer before them now. And unlike some aging rockers who've adapted their performance style to accommodate their changing abilities, Rose often seems to be fighting a losing battle against time itself. Brigitte Bardot's few falls from grace have been as dramatic as Brigitte Bardot's. Once considered the most beautiful woman in the world, the French sex symbol of the 1950s and 60s captivated global audiences with her sensuality and free-spirited persona. Her impact on fashion, film, and femininity was immeasurable. But the Bardot of today, now 89, has transformed in ways that go far beyond natural aging. After retiring from acting in 1973, she retreated from the public eye to focus on animal rights activism. Over the decades, Bardot has been convicted 5 times for inciting racial hatred with repeated anti-Muslim statements, attacks on immigration, and support for far-right politics in France. Her hateful rhetoric has completely overshadowed her earlier cultural contributions, leaving a legacy tarnished beyond repair. Physically, Bardot has rejected the Hollywood standard of cosmetic intervention, allowing herself to age naturally on her remote property in Saint-Tropez. But her weathered appearance, while a natural consequence of time and her love of the outdoors, seems to externally reflect the bitterness that has consumed her later years. The contrast between the radiant young actress who embodied joie de vivre and the isolated, angry woman she's become is stark and deeply sad. Marlon Brando, here it is, the entry you've been waiting for. Marlon Brando's decline represents perhaps the most dramatic and tragic fall in Hollywood history. This wasn't just a bad aging process, it was a complete collapse of one of cinema's greatest talents. And what you're about to learn might forever change how you view one of Hollywood's most legendary icons. In the 1950s, Brando revolutionized acting with his raw, instinctive performances in films like A Streetcar Named Desire and On the Waterfront. Young Brando wasn't just talented. He was stunningly handsome, with a physical presence that commanded the screen and influenced generations of actors who followed. Women wanted him. Men wanted to be him. His smoldering intensity created an entirely new archetype for male movie stars. But Brando's physical transformation as he aged was shocking and sad. By the 1970s, despite career highlights like The Godfather, his weight had already begun to balloon. What makes Brando's case truly unreal was the extent of his self-destruction and the disturbing behavior that accelerated it. His legendary status gave him unprecedented power, which he abused on film sets. Through outrageous demands and unprofessional behavior, few know the full extent of his conduct during Apocalypse Now. Not only did he arrive massively overweight and completely unprepared, but he demanded exorbitant fees for minimal work, refused to learn his lines, and reportedly asked director Francis Ford Coppola bizarre questions designed to waste time. The stories from this period are almost unbelievable. Brando would often wear an earpiece so crew members could feed him his lines rather than memorizing them himself. On the set of The Island of Dr. Moreau, considered one of Hollywood's most disastrous productions, he reportedly demanded a tiny actor follow him around in matching attire and insisted on wearing an ice bucket on his head during one scene for no explicable reason. Co-star Val Kilmer, who also appears on our list, recalled Brando refusing to come out of his trailer for days, at a time bringing production to a costly standstill. Brando's personal life was equally chaotic and tragic. His son Christian was imprisoned for manslaughter after shooting his half-sister Cheyenne's boyfriend. This trauma contributed to Cheyenne's mental health struggles, which ended with her hanging in 1995. While these family tragedies weren't Brando's fault, his chaotic parenting style and frequent absences created an unstable environment that many close to the family believe contributed to their troubles. As his body expanded to nearly 400 lb, Brando retreated to his private island in Tahiti, becoming increasingly reclusive and eccentric. He would reportedly answer his door naked to shock visitors and developed peculiar eating habits, including consuming massive amounts of ice cream mixed with fruit in the middle of the night. Former household staff revealed he would sometimes eat so much he would become physically ill only to continue eating afterward. By the time of his death in 2004, the brilliant, beautiful rebel who had changed cinema forever had been reduced to a cautionary tale of wasted potential and self-indulgence. He died essentially a recluse, with few friends remaining loyal after decades of his manipulative behavior and broken promises. When we compare the Brando of the Wild One, rebellious, beautiful, radiating dangerous charisma, with the barely mobile, oxygen-dependent man who appeared in his final interviews, the transformation is nothing short of heartbreaking. In early Brando performances, he moved like a panther, fluid and powerful. In his later years, he could barely walk across a room without becoming winded. His physical decline seemed to perfectly mirror his artistic descent from innovative genius to self-parody. In his final role in the embarrassing The Score, he appeared alongside Robert De Niro and Edward Norton, three generations of method actors with Brando as a sad ghost of what the technique originally meant. Truly, no star in Hollywood history aged more terribly or fell from a greater height. And as you'll see with our remaining entries, Brando's dramatic decline set a pattern that many others would tragically follow. Val Kilmer, once one of Hollywood's most bankable leading men, Val Kilmer's journey from heartthrob to his final days represents one of the industry's most striking transformations. In the 1980s and 90s, Kilmer lit up the screen in films like Top Gun, The Doors, and Batman Forever. Combining classical good looks with remarkable acting range, with his chiseled jawline, piercing blue eyes, and effortless cool, Kilmer embodied a certain kind of Hollywood male ideal, talented, handsome, and intensely charismatic. The height of Kilmer's stardom came when he was selected to replace Michael Keaton as Batman, at that time, perhaps the most coveted role in Hollywood. His casting represented a coronation of sorts, an acknowledgement that he had reached the industry's uppermost echelon. Yet within just a few years, his career would begin an irreversible decline. Kilmer's difficult reputation began catching up with him long before health issues took their toll. Directors like Joel Schumacher publicly branded him impossible to work with. combative, arrogant, and prone to bizarre behavior on set. On the island of Dr. Moreau, he allegedly refused to leave his trailer for days at a time, bringing the expensive production to a standstill. His Batman Forever co-star, Tommy Lee Jones, reportedly told him, "I cannot sanction your buffoonery." After repeated clashes, Kilmer's death on April 1, 2025, at age 65, ended a prolonged battle with cancer that had visibly aged him beyond his years. The contrast between the Val Kilmer of Top Gun, young, vital, the embodiment of cocky charm, and the man in his final days was stark and sobering. Yet, there was a dignity in his continued creative efforts, despite his health challenges that set him apart from some others on our list. His terrible aging may have been among the most dramatic in Hollywood history, but his response to adversity offered a complexity that few other entries can match. Lindsay Lohan. Few child stars have experienced as public and dramatic a fall as Lindsay Lohan. In the early 2000s, Lohan was America's sweetheart, a talented young actress with genuine comedic chops in films like Mean Girls and Freaky Friday, and seemingly poised for a long, successful career. What followed instead was one of Hollywood's most documented self-destructions. A series of DUIs, failed drug tests, and jail stints played out in the merciless glare of tabloid attention. The physical transformation was rapid and shocking. Mugshots showed increasingly haggard features, with her once fresh face bloated and marked by obvious signs of substance abuse. By her late 20s, Lohan looked decades older than her actual age. The premature aging was so pronounced that her cosmetic procedures to counter the damage only created a strange, artificially tightened appearance that contrasted with her weathered skin texture. Her once promising career collapsed into a string of embarrassing projects and missed opportunities. While Lohan has made attempts to rehabilitate both her image and health in recent years, relocating to Dubai and taking on more selective projects, the damage of those destructive years remains evident. Now 38, she appears older than many actresses in their 50s, her face bearing the permanent markers of her tumultuous past. Her story stands as a stark reminder of how quickly youth can be squandered under the pressures of early fame. Nolte. Nolte's transformation from leading man to disheveled character actor represents one of Hollywood's most dramatic physical declines. In the 1970s and 80s, Nolte was the epitome of rugged good looks, starring in hits like 48 Hers and The Prince of Tides, even being named People magazine's sexiest man alive in 1992. The truth behind that dramatic appearance was Nolte's decades-long struggle with substance abuse. He has openly discussed his battles with addiction to GHB and alcohol, which accelerated his physical aging and led to health problems that further altered his appearance. Today, at 83, Nolte bears little resemblance to his former self. His once strong jawline has softened, his formerly athletic frame has bent with age, and his signature blonde hair has turned white and wild. While he continues to work in character roles, the contrast between the vital leading man of the past and today's gravel-voiced shambling figure is stark. His terrible aging serves as a vivid reminder of how quickly substance abuse can accelerate the natural process of time. Terrence Howard's evolution from promising leading man to industry outcast represents one of Hollywood's strangest career trajectories. In the early 2000s, Howard was on top of the world, earning an Oscar nomination for Hustle and Flow and landing the role of James Rhodes in the first Iron Man film, seemingly set for a long run in the Marvel universe. But Howard's terrible aging hasn't been primarily physical, though stress has certainly taken its toll on his once youthful appearance. Rather, it's his bizarre behavior and controversial statements that have aged him out of Hollywood's good graces. Howard famously lost his role in the Iron Man sequels due to salary disputes and difficult on-set behavior. But that was just the beginning. His tumultuous personal life, including multiple divorces and allegations of domestic violence, severely damaged his reputation. His strange interviews promoting peculiar personal theories about mathematics, where he claimed 1 × 1 = 2, made industry professionals question his stability. While starring in Empire briefly revitalized his career, Howard's increasingly eccentric public persona including announcements about retiring from acting to bring the truth to the world through his own system of logic, has made him an unpredictable figure that major studios avoid. At 55, Howard looks far older than his years, with the weathered appearance of someone who has fought too many battles, both public and private. The contrast between the smooth-talking, charismatic actor who seemed destined for A-list permanence and today's fringe figure is one of Hollywood's most dramatic cautionary tales. Gary Busey Few. Hollywood transformations have been as startling as Gary Busey's evolution from promising dramatic actor to chaotic reality TV personality. In the late 1970s and early 80s, Busey was a respected performer, even earning an Oscar nomination for his portrayal of Buddy Holly. Everything changed in 1988 when Busey suffered a catastrophic motorcycle accident. Riding without a helmet, he sustained a severe head injury. That required brain surgery. By his own admission, the accident fundamentally altered his personality and cognitive function. The post-accident Busey became known for increasingly erratic behavior, rambling interviews, and unpredictable outbursts. His once handsome features became exaggerated and distorted, partly due to the accident's impact, and partly from what appears to be poorly executed cosmetic procedures. His teeth, in particular, became unnaturally large and prominent, creating an uncanny appearance that made him the subject of ridicule. Today, at 80, Busey has embraced his oddball image through reality shows like Celebrity Apprentice and Celebrity Big Brother. But there's something profoundly sad about watching a once promising dramatic actor reduced to a caricature. The terrible aging process we've witnessed with Busey isn't just physical. It's the deterioration of a genuine talent into a punchline accelerated by injury and possibly exacerbated by his choices in its aftermath. O.J. Simpson. No celebrity on our list has experienced a more dramatic fall from grace than O.J. Simpson. Once the epitome of the American success story, a record-breaking NFL running back who successfully transitioned to acting and advertising, Simpson's legacy is now defined entirely by scandal and tragedy. His million-dollar smile and charismatic personality made him one of the first black athletes to become a major advertising star, with his famous Hertz commercials showing him sprinting through airports, becoming a defining image of the 1970s. The physical transformation of O.J. Simpson from his athletic prime to his final years was dramatic and painful to witness. The handsome, charismatic sports hero who once embodied physical perfection became bloated and aged beyond his years during his imprisonment for armed robbery and kidnapping in Nevada. Prison photos showed a man with sagging jowls, a widening waistline, and the dull eyes of someone who has given up. When he was released after 9 years in 2017, Simpson appeared as an old man, moving with difficulty and bearing little resemblance to the dynamic figure of the past. His final public appearances were almost unrecognizable. The once athletic frame now hunched and struggling with mobility issues, his face puffy and lifeless. Videos of Simpson in his last years showed him using a cane and moving with the deliberate, painful gait of someone much older than his chronological age. But Simpson's terrible aging goes far beyond the physical. No amount of natural aging or prison time can compare to the complete destruction of his public image. Despite his acquittal in the criminal trial, the civil judgment finding him responsible for the wrongful deaths of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman permanently branded him in the public consciousness. The spectacle of the 1994-95 trial, watched by an estimated 150 million people, transformed him from beloved celebrity to one of the most controversial figures in American history overnight. Former friends and teammates who knew Simpson during his glory days have described the change in him as something deeper than just physical aging. They noted a profound bitterness that seemed to consume him in his later years, a resentment at how his life had unfolded that manifested in his demeanor and appearance. By the time of his death in April 2024 from cancer at age 76, Simpson had lived long enough to see his entire legacy recontextualized from sports hero to cautionary tale. His terrible aging was unique because it wasn't just about physical decline or even reputation damage. It was about witnessing the complete inversion of a public persona from the most admired to the most reviled. The stories of these 15 celebrities reveal something profound about fame and character that goes far beyond simple gossip or entertainment. What's particularly fascinating and perhaps disturbing is how predictable these patterns of decline become once you start looking for them. The initial denial, the desperate attempts to recapture youth through increasingly extreme measures. From Mel Gibson's bigoted outburst to O.J. Simpson's fall from grace, we've witnessed the collapse of careers that once seemed untouchable. These weren't minor celebrities or one-hit wonders. These were the titans of entertainment, the seemingly invincible icons who defined entire eras of American culture. Their falls weren't just personal tragedies. They were cultural milestones that forced us to reconsider what we value and who we elevate to positions of influence. These stories fascinate us because they reveal the truth behind the carefully constructed illusions of Hollywood. They show us that beneath the glamour, the wealth, and the perfectly crafted public images, these celebrities are deeply flawed human beings whose mistakes eventually catch up with them, just like they would for any of us. Think about how many rising stars are following these exact same patterns right now. Who among today's A-listers might be on a similar list 20 years from now? The cycle continues because the fundamental problems with celebrity culture remain unchanged. We elevate people to godlike status, isolate them from normal social consequences, reward their worst instincts, and then act surprised when they implode. Some might deserve our sympathy, those whose mental health or addiction issues led to their decline. Others, particularly those who built their careers while hiding truly reprehensible behavior, deserve the harsh judgment of history. Either way, their stories serve as powerful reminders that fame is fleeting and character, not appearance, is what truly endures. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of these stories is how few of these celebrities ever truly acknowledge their role in their own downfall. Even as their bodies and faces revealed the consequences of their choices, they continued to blame others, to make excuses, to avoid the hard work of genuine self-reflection. The rare exceptions, those who owned their mistakes and genuinely tried to change, stand out precisely because they're so uncommon in an industry built on illusion and denial. And that brings us to the end of our journey through Hollywood's most dramatic transformations. From once beautiful stars who lost their looks to beloved figures who revealed ugly truths about themselves, these 15 celebrities remind us of the steep price of fame and the inevitable consequences of moral compromise. I hope this exploration has given you a new perspective on celebrity culture, one that looks beyond the glossy magazine covers and carefully staged Instagram posts to the complicated, often troubling reality beneath. Because while we may enjoy the entertainment these stars provide, we should never forget that behind the characters they play are real human beings, making real choices with real consequences. What do you think about these fallen icons? Which transformation shocked you the most? Is there someone you believe should have made our list? The conversation doesn't have to end with this video. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments section below. If you found value in this deep dive into Hollywood's darker side, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We're dedicated to bringing you thoughtful, well-researched content that goes beyond the surface of golden Page Hollywood and explores the complex legacies of entertainment's biggest names. And here's a question to leave you with. What will your legacy be? Unlike these celebrities, most of us won't live our lives in the public eye. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in our next video, where we'll continue to explore the fascinating, complex world of Hollywood.